My name is Alyssa. Due to slight climate changes, our rural home has become more susceptible to insect infestation. As a result, I actively perform pest control every year, effectively becoming a hunter-like figure as a 34-year-old full-time housewife. Once fearful of insects, by the age of 30, I began to conduct extermination work without changing my expression. I think I have become quite tough. Today I want to share an episode about how I dealt with my younger sister Emma, who had an affair with my husband Scott. He was my childhood acquaintance, but our relationship blossomed a few years ago when I was still in my 20s. At that time, a middle school reunion was held after a long while, and I got reunited with him there. When we had just started elementary school, Emma, 2 years younger than me, Scott, and I used to play together. However, as we reached the age where it became embarrassing to play with girls, Scott began to distance himself from us. Scott's family moved away during middle school, making it even harder to keep in touch. Therefore, it was very tense for us to talk at the reunion. But something reliable exists when you grow up alcohol. Scott and I, both lovers of alcohol, enjoyed the reunion more than expected thanks to its help. After we had a drink for 3 rounds just by ourselves, Scott said something as we were about to part ways. "I've liked you since we were kids, and it seems those feelings have continued until now." I thought, what does that mean? But the conversation lightened, and he suggested, "Why don't we date?" So our relationship began. The next day, a sober Scott exclaimed, "Oh, I finally said it. How embarrassing. Am I being pretentious? What do you think? Is it selfish?" while rolling on the floor, and I burst into laughter. Though I felt sorry for him, seeing the person you like feel embarrassed is inexplicably fun. Afterward, things progressed quickly, and we decided to get married, visited both families, and informed them about the wedding plan for 6 months later and the start of us living together. We did that before the wedding to better understand each other's daily lives. Since we were originally childhood friends, our families knew each other well. There were no obstacles, and they gave us their blessings for our marriage smoothly. That's how it should have been, but something unexpected happened at home. During a meal with my family, Scott had come to visit. "Hello," said Emma after she came home from work. Upon seeing Scott at the table, her surprise quickly turned to joy. "Scott, why are you here?" Scott said, glancing at me shyly. "Actually, we've been dating for the past 6 months and are considering marriage. He came today to tell us about it." I decided to explain the situation to Emma, thinking it was my responsibility. At that moment, Emma's face contorted as if she was holding discomfort. "Wow, I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. See you later." She hurriedly went into her room and slammed the door shut. "Oh, this is bad." I wondered if I had upset her and looked at Scott with a puzzled expression, but he reassured me with a smile. "It's okay." Just to clarify, Emma is not usually like that. She might be dissatisfied with our marriage and living arrangement. But why is she the only one feeling this way when our parents see no problem? Unable to grasp Emma's feelings, I debated whether to ask her directly after Scott left. As I was about to go to the bathroom, I encountered Emma in the hallway. Oops. Lost for words? Emma glared at me angrily. I can't believe you decided to marry Scott. I've liked him for a long time. I will never forgive you. Emma stormed off with heavy footsteps, leaving me in shock. At her sudden confession, I could only be astonished. Really? Did she like Scott? It felt like a drama unfolding, and I was overwhelmed. After a sleepless night, I came to a conclusion. Even if Emma likes my fiancé, why should it be a problem? Our marriage is already decided. If Scott had said he liked Emma, it would be a different story, but that's not the case. If she had feelings for him since childhood, she should have told him sooner. It's her own failure not to have expressed her feelings, and I shouldn't be blamed. I expected her backlash, but decided to handle it with the poise of an elder sister. In this heavy situation, I chose to think optimistically. However, I continued to struggle with whether to tell Scott. If Emma's feelings became known to him, it could cause problems. But if I didn't tell him, he might continue to feel uncomfortable every time he came to our house. Deciding it was his right to know, I explained everything to him. If there's trouble, seek help. There's only so much I can do. Scott reassured me. Sibling issues, huh? If Emma becomes aggressive, will you protect me? Of course not. Ha ha. With such light-hearted exchanges, we decided not to overthink things. We had no intention of reversing our decision to marry, and persuading Emma and gaining her understanding seemed unlikely. Ultimately, just letting it be was our decision. As expected, Emma's resistance intensified. The first day, she drained the bathtub water she had used first. No big deal, I'll just shower. But having my makeup and wallet hidden before work was quite stressful. I don't have the luxury to hunt for treasures in the morning. Desperately searching while nearly being late, I ended up rushing to work at the last minute twice a week, receiving sharp glances from my boss, as if I was neglecting my duties due to my upcoming marriage. This is unacceptable. As her older sister, I internally struggle with whether to forgive or not to forgive. Initially, our parents were unaware of my sister's pranks, but they realized something was amiss after some of my important items were hidden. There was even a scene where our mother scolded my sister, asking, "Why are you behaving so childishly?" On the other hand, my sister thought little of it, but the real problem was with our father. Shortly after my sister was born, when our mother fell ill, my father took care of her, which made him especially fond of my sister. In other words, through his parenting experience, he developed maternal feelings. I understand his feelings. It's natural to feel affectionate towards a daughter whom he had struggled to raise. An incident that made me feel he favored my sister was when I wanted to go to an amusement park as a child. My sister wanted to go to an aquarium instead, and my father ultimately decided we would go to the aquarium. At that time, my friends often said, "Your sister is loved more," so it kind of confirmed there was indeed a bias in affection. Since my mother respected our different opinions, she didn't have a big problem with my father's bias, but if she had been biased too, I might have suffered from a deep sense of inferiority. Perhaps it's my optimistic nature that allowed me to go through it well. I used to say things like, if there's someone who can make me feel sad, I'd like to meet them. However, this time, my father clearly supported my sister. Apparently, my sister felt that her older sister stole her boyfriend, and my father blamed Scott as a heartless man who messed around with both of his daughters. As the older sister with a marriage already decided, I could understand why he would defend my younger sister who felt abandoned. My father's view was met with skepticism by my mother, who half doubted, I can't see Scott doing such a thing, and when I insisted, that's not true, she listened to both sides. Then, my mother judged us both fairly without blindly believing anyone's words. However, my father strongly said, I can't forgive that heartless man who played with my precious daughters as if I was influenced by Scott. He completely ignored my attempts to explain. Although my father is a wonderful father who deeply loves us, this time I wish he would listen to me more. It's troublesome if there are more objections to the marriage, but I've decided to go against them and proceed. Effectively, that means moving up the schedule and starting to live with Scott immediately. If the problem is concentrated on my sister, the best course of action is to distance myself from her. If I leave the family home, her harassment should stop. That should solve the problem. As if to prove this choice was correct, our living together proceeded smoothly. Over time, my mother said, maybe you're right. You're an adult now, live as you see fit, supporting me, and although my father had complaints, he said nothing more. Even if Scott and I were to break up, I doubted that Scott would choose my sister, as it seemed pitiful. I feel this was the smoothest way to handle the situation. It was hard for Scott to be in such an unfortunate situation, but since my sister stopped contacting us, I wondered if everything would finally settle down. Then came the day of the wedding. My sister ultimately did not attend, but my father suggested reconsidering, saying, it's still not too late. My mother laughed and said, I also thought I made a mistake several times after marrying your father. Marriage comes with various things. My father was clearly shocked to hear what she said. Although not everyone blessed us wholeheartedly, at the very least, we had our wedding under our parents' eyes. The next morning, the home doorbell wouldn't stop ringing. What? Scott and I jumped up in a panic, rushing to check the door monitor. Unbelievably, the whole family had come. Dad, Mom, Emma, what's going on? Before my surprise, Emma looked at me coldly. I didn't tell you, but I'm pregnant with Scott's baby. I want him to take responsibility. That's the case. Fortunately, Alyssa has no children yet. Scott should take responsibility and marry Emma. Give Scott up. My mother, confused by my sister and father's suggestion, asked me, what on earth is going on? At that moment, Scott walked to the entrance, still dazed. What? My child, what? He finally woke up and shook his head vigorously at me. No, that's not true. It was a dramatic denial, like something out of a drama. I know. His panicking only makes it more suspicious, so stop that. I kept silent. holding back my laughter. What? Scott's child. How far along is the pregnancy? 2 months. If Scott doesn't take responsibility, this child will be fatherless. That would be too sad, right? 2 months. Shocked by my sister's words, Scott and I looked at each other. Ha 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 ha. Scott and I burst into laughter. Our parents were confused and unable to understand. Emma panicked. Why are you laughing? Look, it's been 2 months, right? Tears spilled from my eyes as I laughed too hard. Emma, we've had some fun times recently, haven't we? Yeah, sure. Emma was flustered by Scott's sudden question. Our parents, not understanding his words, gave him a cold stare. I was probably the only one who understood his intention in this situation. By the way, Emma, do you remember how ripped my abs were? Ha. Hee hee. Emma is dumbfounded. I'm struggling to contain my laughter. Do you remember how many abs I had 2 months ago when you checked? I seem to have misplaced them somewhere recently. It seems like only Scott would compare forgetting his abs to misplacing something. I laughed so hard, it was as if my abs were popping out. Scott, what do you mean by that? The answer is 0. I was about to agree, but Scott ignored Emma's suspicious look and seriously declared he had no abs. Even our mother couldn't help but laugh at this scene. It appears that the one who can make others laugh wins this game. Next question. You've seen my mole, right? How many do I have? What? Ha. Emma was confused about how to respond to Scott's strange question. Naturally, his real intention was to enjoy bewildering her in this situation. In reality, there's nothing physical between them, so she couldn't possibly answer his question. If she makes any mistake, it would be to Scott's advantage. Although simply denying knowledge would resolve it, Scott deliberately pressed for details, taking joy in her inability to answer. In fact, our mother also began to question whether their behavior really indicated a romantic relationship, as it seemed quite different. Naturally, such interactions would not be possible if they were truly intimate. It was a very embarrassing scene to have in front of parents. This very conversation serves as proof that nothing had happened. Scott was attempting to retaliate by confusing Emma. He looked innocently happy, like a child with a new toy. This man is terrifying. If you can't handle this kind of joke, living with Scott might be difficult, I thought, while watching Emma's reaction. Puzzled, Emma blurted out, maybe 10. Ah, too bad. The correct answer is that I don't know either. Even our father had to laugh at this. However, while hiding his laughter, he scolded, "Get serious, Scott. Stop confusing us." I had to hold back our father as he seemed ready to pounce on Scott. Wait, listen. Didn't she say she's 2 months pregnant? That calculation shows it can't be Scott's child. Really? What do you mean? Our mother asked, intrigued. Is it okay if I tell them I asked? And Scott reluctantly nodded. Wait, can I actually say it? Scott double-checked. It's okay, go ahead. Yeah, I'll say it." Taking his cue, he puffed out his chest and began, Mother, father. To tell the truth, around that time, a very delicate part of me was stung by a bee. At his words, everyone around, including Emma, burst into laughter. "Don't lie so much. There's no way such a place got stung." Our father was angry, while our mother clapped her hands laughing. Actually, that's true. It was hot that day, and thinking no one could see me, I opened all the windows and was cooling off naked. Then, that bee suddenly." Scott was blushing from his face to his ears. Embarrassed to have made him share such a story in front of the family, I tried not to laugh, but I couldn't help myself. There's no way someone could be that embarrassed. Yes, there really is such a person right here. Scott objected to our father's words loudly, though it was not a story he was particularly proud of. Even so, that doesn't mean I can definitively say that my pregnancy isn't Scott's fault. Emma, regaining her stance as if to recover her position, restarted the argument. "Think about it, Emma. It was a bee sting. Can you imagine? A crucial part. Dad, try to imagine. As a man, you must understand the pain." Emma was speechless at Scott's serious expression. Our father listened to Scott and unconsciously covered that part, looking down embarrassedly. His anxious expression gradually softened, seemingly coming to terms with Scott's words. "It's a very important, delicate part for a man, so it was really troublesome. I had to call an ambulance. I was in the ambulance with him. I was even more embarrassed." Reacting to Scott's explanation, I couldn't help but respond. It was tough because he had a fever, and in such a condition. It's a bit of a peculiar hobby, isn't it? If there are any doubts, we could ask the hospital that helped us, Scott modestly suggested, causing our mother to burst into laughter. "Scott, ever since you were little, you always wanted to take off your swimsuit when playing in the kiddie pool. Come on, show us the place where you were stung." While laughing heartily, our mother excitedly approached Scott. "It's completely healed now, so there's no evidence. I can't show you something like that." Scott, for some reason, tried to escape from our mother, not covering the relevant part. It was clear from this scene that our mother completely trusted him. I, too, felt relieved. However, Scott seemed uneasy for a slightly different reason. Well, even from a man's perspective, it's not usual to lie about such an embarrassing thing, and it's clear without going to a doctor. At that moment, our father looked at Scott with a compassionate gaze, as if cherishing his slight dignity. It was a face I had never seen before. Ironically, the area that was attacked tends to elicit sympathy in certain situations. Does an injury prove advantageous even in such cases? In the midst of this, I spoke to my bewildered sister, Emma. "Listen, even if such ridiculous lies are told, we're not getting a divorce. In fact, the only person who will end up more miserable is you. Even if you don't believe it, I truly wish for your happiness. After all, you're my only sister." At that moment, Emma's eyes widened dramatically. "Shut up, shut up, shut up. I'm so done. I don't need a Scott who can only be yours." As Emma became emotional and tried to lash out at me, Scott forcefully brushed off her hand. "I don't care what Emma thinks of me. I love Alyssa, and that's enough for me. Emma will continue to be a dear childhood friend and a sister-in-law, but I do not see her romantically. If you continue with these lies, I will respond firmly. As Alyssa's husband, it's my duty to protect her." Emotions heightened and tears nearly spilled. "It's all over. I've never ever felt like the world was against me until today," said the person who wouldn't seem to have been in despair after a bee sting. At that moment, he seemed incredibly dependable. "Watching this," our father said, "if Emma is truly pregnant, I want to see medical records." This request clarified that our parents had merely believed the pregnancy based on words alone. Their kindness in believing their children seemed to have backfired this time. Our mother insisted to Emma, "If you're lying, you should apologize." Trembling, Emma retorted, "I've reached my limit. No one is on my side. I won't apologize for anything," she screamed, tears streaming as she left. Dad attempted to follow her, but Mom stopped him. "Let her be for now. Let her calm down." What changed over the next 2 weeks? Our mother forcefully took a persistently claiming to be pregnant Emma to the gynecologist, but as expected, there were no signs of pregnancy. She was diagnosed as a healthy adult woman with no signs of illness. Subsequently, our parents apologized to Scott. "We're sorry for the unnecessary suspicion. We've known you for a long time and we should have trusted you, Scott. Please take good care of Alyssa." They also apologized to me for making me uncomfortable. Not having disclosed the extent of my estrangement with Emma, I didn't blame my parents. Parents believing in their children might be seen in various lights socially, but for a child, it's reassuring. They are irreplaceable to me. Humans make mistakes. This time, it was our father who did. Indulging Emma led to problems again, but considering the great debt I owe them, I chose to forgive them. Without my parents, I wouldn't have the happy life I lead now, nor might I have met Scott. After the truth about the fake pregnancy was revealed, Emma, embarrassed, stormed out saying, "I don't need a home like this anymore." Our father, who had been generous to Emma, had previously said, "It's better for her to have a cooling-off period away from home," and chose not to follow her. Our mother said sternly, "Such behavior can't just be excused as being carried away by romantic feelings. She must apologize when she returns. If she can't do that, she can't come back home." It's hard to imagine such an angry Emma apologizing to us. Mom agreed with this thought. This was effectively an exile from the family. 7 years later, Emma returned to the family home and apologized to us once, but eventually she was completely cut off. Despite her initially very sincere behavior, by the end of the year, excessive alcohol consumption led to serious trouble. The catalyst was her sneaking into Scott's blanket while he was asleep and provocatively asking, "Aren't you tired of your sister?" Scott, startled as if he'd seen a ghost, screamed loudly, causing a commotion among those nearby. The noise echoed through the house, waking not only me but also our parents. This commotion revealed the incident to the family. He wasn't a suspect to anything strange this time, but the drunken Emma exclaimed, "I'm so jealous of you always being close to your sister." pay some attention to me too." Her demand was unrealistic, and I had no intention of complying. In response, I exploded in anger, yelling, "Stop it." Scott trembled like a small chihuahua, and our parents, angrier than ever, disowned Emma. Especially our father, despite his deep love for Emma, expressed his outrage. "I don't remember raising a child who behaves like this." I will never forget this shocking event. Once sober, Emma apologized repeatedly, but our father firmly refused, saying, "I can't believe you. The things you do when you are drunk reveal the truth." This resulted in Emma tearfully leaving the family home for good. After that, my life changed significantly, with my first pregnancy being confirmed by the end of the year. Since then, I have continued to have children, and am now a mother of 4 at 34. Our home includes a pair of twins among the children, and although I've only experienced childbirth 3 times, the house is always lively. In fact, nearly every year, new family members join, making our daily life as festive and fun as a festival. If left unattended, the walls quickly become like an art exhibition due to the kids' crayon drawings. Scott and I often move around the house busily with vacuum cleaners, especially on Sunday mornings. Sometimes the kids redraw on the walls we've just cleaned, but this too is a fun part of their creativity. Our youngest is currently in a bit of a rebellious phase, resisting dressing, brushing his teeth, and using the toilet. No clothes. "I don't want to brush my teeth." "I don't want to go to the toilet," he cries, which can be challenging, but every time I see the angelic sleeping faces of all 4, I instantly forget all these small disasters. Our parents, not just with the first grandchild but with each new one, pour deep love and often come to help with childcare, greatly relieving us. Scott is very cooperative in raising the kids, often giving them piggyback rides, but each time they pull on his hair, he worries about being bald in the future. Yet, thinking of the children, all these small hardships feel dear to me. Becoming bald is okay. With Scott's recent promotion and increased income, advanced hair loss treatment is an option if needed. I keep quiet about that, but seeing Scott worry about his thinning hair is somewhat amusing. Seeing various sides of the person you love is very interesting and enjoyable. It's one of the small joys between us. He he he. Ideally, people might prefer a quiet and calm house, but our home is the exact opposite. It's too noisy, but all that noise is a great source of happiness for me now.